Get up and get excited for Dr. Josh Funk.
Thank you. Oh, goodness. Cav, just want to say thank you. Full circle moment. It's pretty cool to have just met you a long time ago and now to be adding value to something that obviously you play a huge part in. When Cav reached out to me about speaking, I was here last year and I found myself wondering what I could add value as it relates to the audience. And I think that I took a little bit more of what I would call a boring track, and Cav mentioned a little bit about athletics, but if we tie business to sports, you've got a sport. Let's take it basketball. And you only have a few things really that you're doing from a skill acquisition standpoint with regularity. You're shooting, we're passing, we're rebounding, blocks, steals. They become very, very monotonous. And I think that what he mentioned as it relates to the decade of work that I've been able to put together with Rehab to Perform, it's committing to the monotonous basics. And in the beginning of starting a business, you are learning a ton and ideally failing fast. You're not winning a ton, but you're learning and you're moving forward and you're growing. And then you get to a certain point where you start to stack small wins and start to stack even bigger wins. And that's where I feel fortunate to be here today, where I can provide you with a pathway as it relates to the how. There's a lot of things that you'll take from this weekend as it relates to the what you're doing, the what you're doing with people, the what you're providing people. But I hope to provide you a little bit more of like an operating system as to how you can operate and how you can create small wins that eventually become something much bigger. What I'm here to do is to ideally help you take whatever it is that you have currently, whatever it is that you might have learned from this weekend, and not end up like this, okay? There's a lot of stuff that you could be sitting here and going, I have to go home and I have to add all of these different things, and you're trying to put the pieces together, and I'm hopefully going to be able to simplify that for you. I will never forget a conversation early in my entrepreneurial journey where I'm at an event, and I meet a business owner. This guy's probably in his 50s, and he tells me, after I communicated to him that I had just started my business, well, congratulations. You signed yourself up for 30 years of working harder than anybody else and probably not ending up with nearly the ROI. You might as well have just been employed and been a W-2. And I'll never, never forget hearing that, and in my head, the competitive side of me thinking, absolutely not. Like, there's no way that that's going to be me. That, in my opinion, was the entrepreneur. This is an individual that maybe had always prided themselves on being the idea person, right? I'm the idea person. I'm the visionary, right? And that's almost serves, when you talk to these people over and over, as an excuse for them repetitively running into the same issues. They lack direction. They're doing all of the things, but they're not actually going anywhere. They're regularly seeking shortcuts. They're, following after the latest get-rich-quick scheme. They're largely a reactive human being. They're reacting to the latest thing going on in their business. They're handling all the minutia, the day-to-day. They're bogged down. They never get to work on the things that they should be working on. And a lot of times when talking to them, you realize that they don't realize that they're actually losing. Regardless of your personal opinion of this man, he is a very, very good business person. There's a lot of get shit done here. He's a results-driven person, an individual that will test an idea, take action on that idea, and then quickly adapt when things don't work out. There's a compass, right? There's directionality. I'm doing this. This is who I'm doing it for, and this is the direction that I want to take this. Proactive. Instead of being busy, they're productive because they're on offense. They know exactly what they need to accomplish, and they're working on that on their day-to-day instead of waiting for the latest fire to pop up. And they focus on stacking the small wins, and the one word I want you to focus on there is boring. Because it is boring to do small things over and over and over and over. But the sad truth, entrepreneurship is not easy. Running a business is very, very challenging, and the statistics don't support it lasting for very long. I don't want to be that man in my 50s wondering where time went and why I didn't spend my time doing things differently. So, not to get into it too much, but as I mentioned earlier, I feel like we've stacked a lot of wins, especially over the past few years. We'll be a 12-location business by the end of the year this year. Been on the Inc. 5000 for the past 5 years. We're a $1 million a month company, and this year we'll probably do about 150,000 sessions. We've earned the right over time to be a winner. Abundance has been created in our ecosystem. Salary and benefits continue to rise for everybody as a part of our company. And the thing that I feel most important about, and I'll share this with you all, and it's the first time really sharing publicly, I got a little man coming this December, so I'm super excited. I'm super excited to be in a position where I have the leverage to run my life and run my business so it does not run me. And at the top, that's making shit happen. So, who is this guy? All right? I started as a PT, as Cav mentioned, was all in the weeds on being the best PT that I could be. And then I started to look around the room and went, you know what? There's a lot of really, really smart people, a lot of great PTs, and I have a different set of gifts. I could never, and I hope I get this right, Dr. Danny, I could never do what you do at the level that you're at, and I realized that really, really quickly. 2 of the PTs we attracted very early on are now in the NBA. So you're looking around the room and you're going, I can't be the best here, so I'm going to shift my focus into where I felt my gifts were. Took that entrepreneur mindset, made it into somebody who has multi-location excellence, and I do feel comfortable. There's no imposter syndrome at this stage of the game that I've earned the title of CEO. And the one thing that I'll pride myself on, and it comes back to athletics, is I'm a competitor. I will do what it takes to win. Period. And the one thing that I want you to leave, if you remember this today, you and your company compete on process. That's it. Not adding the next gadget, not adding the next special sauce. The process of how you approach what is going on now and the direction that you want to head in. So before we get started, let's cut through the bullshit, okay? Because we all have it, and the quicker that you cut through your own bullshit, the better off that you'll be. So asking yourself that question, what do I believe to be true that actually is not? Unfortunately, some of you will listen to this presentation, and we will be here. And we will be here for a long, long time, and you potentially will be that 50-year-old man that I met that said you might as well have been a W-2. It is my challenge to you to make sure that you know where you are incompetent, close the ignorance gap as quickly as you can, and eventually get to the top right of this matrix. Because at the end of the day, you are going to be the reason for your company continually innovating and creating the greenest grass possible, or that's it. You'll be done. So what I want this to be for you, and it will not be the sexiest presentation of the weekend, is I want it to be an Apple upgrade for you in terms of your operating system of your company. We're going to cover a couple basic rocks. KPIs, feedback loops, and ideally on Monday, you start to focus more on the how of your doing things, the how of your company moving forward, the how your company is looking at things as it relates to objectivity, the how you are getting feedback from your people, your team, and your customers. But one of the things you have to make sure that you've done is you have to define winning and what winning looks like for you. There's a basic definition up here, and, oh, you want that? You can get it from me later. But you have two general tracks here, and I'm not saying that this is completely binary, but you have kind of this sliding scale of, the solopreneur with regards to what they may be looking for out of their business, some pros of being that solopreneur, and then you have the entrepreneur side, the individual that might want to scale, may want different things in terms of what finances look like, predictability, the amount of layers of complexity, potentially things as it relates to the financial benefits, but you have to determine what that looks like for you. And I sit there as somebody that does work with people on the business side as well, outside of our company, but for some people, the area on the left looks great. So I don't want anybody to hear my story and think that you have to do anything that I'm doing. You have to make sure that you are looking at your skill set, looking at what's going on from a business standpoint, your strengths, and the left could be way better. And honestly, I tell people sometimes it would have been way easier, but I didn't know much about solopreneurship back when I was getting started. So maybe that's one reason why I'm here where I am today. Big picture though, what do we want to do? Winning largely for a business owner is going to look like these things here, right? You're operating on offense. That is a Phil Knight, Nike, like one of their main operating principles in the beginning, right? We are not going to be defensive. When we talk about KPIs later, we talk about feedback loops. You are operating on offense with numbers and feedback from your ecosystem. We want something that's consistent and predictable. Nobody wants inconsistent revenue, right? Nobody wants inconsistent KPIs. Nobody wants an inconsistent service or product. Client and team satisfaction is paramount to any service-based business of which we're interacting in. So how do you determine that? How do you move forward and improve that? Professional fulfillment for yourself, I would argue that's a big thing that we're all chasing. Work-life rhythm, work-life balance. I almost hate to use balance because it looks different for different people, and I would argue that as long as you have a clearly defined or at least some exit point in terms of a period of time where you're putting your head down and working, that a lot of us can work hard. But the goal should be that we don't have to work hard for a long period of time. You should have the optionality to choose to work hard on something for, say, a short sprint, and then maybe pull the throttle back a little bit and survey the scene. Sustainability being a big thing. We didn't get into this to have a one-hit wonder. And at the end of the day, what are you trying to create is you are trying to create leverage in your life, either from a financial standpoint, time standpoint, or most likely a mix of the two. KPIs, okay? Major key. Measurable values that you should be looking at on a regular basis. For our company, we're going to look at it from a departmental level, and I would argue you could probably look at it very, very similarly. You have certain functions as it relates to marketing that you should be looking at regularly. Certain things as it relates to potentially the scheduling and fulfillment of the service. Certain things as it relates to the actual quality of the service. And then certain things as it relates to potentially the people in your ecosystem. You have these departments, and you're going to have objective ways at looking at how good or not well things are going. And that helps you determine your ROI on your efforts. A lot of people can work hard, but you work hard to get reps to work smarter. The only way to work smarter is if you know how well your work is being measured. So if I took it back to the athletic side in the beginning, and if I'm just talking about a jump shot, and most basketball players have a very monotonous routine. They shoot 1,000 shots a day. It's not sexy, right? They shoot it from various spots on the court, and they hit it. Now, basketball, it's very lucky, okay? Put the ball in the basket, okay? We have to come up with our way of looking at our efforts being objectively viewed so that we determine whether or not we are winning or not, okay? And they're going to provide you with your direction when you have certain areas where you realize you're deficient. So, 2 ways of viewing lead and lag KPIs. You have certain things that are more process in nature, and you have certain things that are more outcome in nature. If I focus on my lead indicators, they'll often have, ideally, some kind of direct correlation with my outcome. Micro, short-term focus, potentially creating a ripple effect to having an effect on something over here. What many people forget, and I even mentioned this earlier, and we focus on the macro vanity metrics, but a lot of us forget the leading indicators or the process-oriented metrics in your business. But the process-oriented metrics should help guide your day-to-day and week-over-week, and I would argue that your lagging indicators are things that you're probably looking at on a greater time span level, okay? Micro, trying to identify little trends. If I do dial this, boom, what happens down here? Okay, good, I like that. Oh, that didn't do anything? Okay, I need to go to something new. Example, marketing lead versus lag. That one side is all about action and traffic, but I would want to potentially be looking at the effect of dialing up things like views and visits, and then seeing what is happening on the other side. Okay, it could have click-through rate, click rate. Obviously, a certain amount of action in terms of people interacting with you is positive. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I've got things on the back end that I'm looking at to determine whether or not all that action and traffic led to something meaningful. Did I get people to a landing page and nothing happened, right? Did I get to DMs and I didn't do a good job of navigating the conversation, or have a certain script, or have something that brought somebody into a lead magnet? Service side, again, just some examples. None of this is meant to be all-inclusive. But certain things as it relates to, right, response time, in terms of me responding to somebody who does fill out a form, or somebody who potentially does call. How many missed calls do I have? How many voicemails got left? Am I actually getting people scheduled on the front side, and does that potentially lead to them going through customer lifetime value that's ideal? What's going on in between? Could I be looking at things like churn rate, net promoter score, that eventually get me to a point where I've got something consistent on the back end, so I don't have closure, right, with somebody being scheduled, and then I've got people popping in for varied amounts of time, which leads to varied amounts of revenue, which leads to inconsistent profitability. Again, nothing here is meant to be a direct line item across, but this is just meant to give you some examples. Shifting gears into feedback loops. This is something that's an operating principle within our company. It allows us to give very, very candid feedback to one another, and ideally cut through the fat where we're not having to kind of tippy-toe around telling somebody like it is. Okay? It's not meant to be emotional, but we want to win, and we know that clearing conversation allows us to win. So we try to come up with as many ways as possible we're able to provide each other with open and transparent feedback. It does, at the bottom there, unfortunately tap into some things that are very, very challenging for people on a mental and emotional level, but I think if you always frame up what you are trying to accomplish and what open and transparent communication should not be, then you're not going to run into any issues. Whew. Come on, how many of us have interacted with one of these people? Probably even have them in our personal lives, okay? But this is not going to help, okay? This is our company totem, be greater than yesterday. I know everybody has something that continues to guide them forward, but if I don't take in feedback, I can't be greater than I was yesterday. What do we have in place? We have a KPI cadence. I mentioned that already. We're looking at objective markers of how we are doing in different departments in the company. A lot of this is looked at on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. It is something that I would highly recommend if you have not established your KPIs doing that. If you then don't have a block on your calendar where you and or people on your team have certain KPIs due, I would highly recommend that. I would also highly recommend looking into what KPI benchmarks you should actually be shooting for. If you have all three of those, you are better off than a lot of businesses that are largely just operating in the dark. Quarterly check-ins, this is something that we do from a company standpoint that I'll dive into. A 360-degree survey, because I hated performance reviews so much earlier in my career that I was like, I'm never going to do performance reviews. Meetings with people, it goes, it's pretty cut and dry. What's your meeting cadence? And then finding a way, and this is great places to work, to be objective outside of your organization, having external organizations benchmark your organization. So KPI cadence, I mentioned this a little bit. Don't want to dive into it too much, but a big thing that you have to find, it's one thing to have KPIs, it's another thing to have industry standards, and it's another thing to have certain intervals which you're looking at them and having conversations with them or about them to your team. You have to make sure that you are closing loops, and then you are determining how you are going to operate differently moving forward. From a quarterly check-in standpoint, we just send out something basic through Google. How likely are you to refer somebody to work at Rehab to perform? 1 to 10. A lot of people do it from a client standpoint, and they never do it for your team. I would highly recommend you doing it. It's good to have a client-facing NPS. It's good to have a team-facing NPS. We ask them, what's going well, what's not going well, what can we help you with, and what can you change? Very simple, but you get so many different avenues of which people are responding, and the best part about it is it just gives you more awareness of what's going on and how to have better conversations with the people in your ecosystem, of which I think we all would love to have, rather than have somebody do a quiet quit or potentially surprise us. We also have a Culture Champion Award, and that's where we just agree on 6 words that we would like to describe our ideal teammate, and they vote for each other. I mentioned I hate performance reviews, largely because I feel like, why didn't you just tell me about my performance the entire year? I should have been able to look at my performance the entire year. Why did we wait till the end of the year? That didn't really make much sense to me. So by the 10th day of every month, everybody gets their number posted. Everybody knows exactly how they're doing. It's pretty transparent. There's no point in me saving like a time at the end of the year to have that conversation. So instead, they rate their workplace happiness, their work-life balance. They review themselves, review the company, and they review 3 peers. Largely, it's going to be a departmental head and then 2 people that are kind of at the same level as them. Meetings, this is up to you to kind of figure out what. You'll have some one-to-one, some potentially small group that are maybe departmental oriented, or at this point, like we have our corporate team getting on calls. We jump in, we share wins, learns, losses. We talk about specific KPIs that are maybe popping up or that we've been talking about for a little period of time, and we get straight to action. What are we acting on because we don't like how something looks? Potentially finishing at the end with something that they feel like they're under-resourced with. So if they're under-resourced or there's an area where they need more help with, we collectively come up with a game plan, and then we move forward, and then everybody has clarity about KPIs, what we're working on, and how we're potentially resourcing another member of the team. This is something you don't have to do Great Place to Work certification, but they have local best places to work, places where you can just send all your emails over to an external organization. Then they send your people an industry agnostic way of looking at your company culture and your company workplace. It's a great place to get outside feedback and to have somebody else tell you how to improve things in your company ecosystem. As we close here, one of the things that ideally this will allow you to do is it will allow you to view yourself, not just the way that you should be viewing your business, but that somebody from outside of your business, particularly a competitor, would be looking at you. You are getting to objective feedback. You are getting to objective metrics that ideally allow you to move forward and clearly say, I'm standing in a different place this month compared to last month, this year compared to last year. But the question I'll leave you all with is, what are you doing to create version 2.0 of your business? Are you just going to subjectively tell me how things are improving? Or are you going to be able to match it with facts, numbers, and things that other people in your company are telling you? Thank you.